This is a Navy corpsman. They wear the same uniform as Marines do on the battlefield, but they are, in fact, from the Navy. Whatever combat environment the U.S. Marines are sent to, there's sure to be a corpsman nearby. They also do not have red crosses on their uniforms or helmets, at least not anymore. But more on that later. And most importantly, they are not called medics. Let's break down the role of the Navy corpsman. What exactly is a corpsman? Why does the U.S. Marines have Navy corpsmen instead of their own medics? And why do Navy corpsmen no longer display that red cross on their uniform or helmets, as seen in some Hollywood films and old photographs? The official name of a corpsman is a U.S. Navy hospital corpsman. As the name implies, they are part of the Navy and fulfill the various duties for care and triage at a naval hospital. To become a Navy corpsman, sailors volunteer to attend a 14-week school in San Antonio, Texas, where they learn basic patient and life support care, first aid, and a variety of other medical triage knowledge. The Navy also has other schools for corpsman training, including their field medical schools located at the U.S. Marine Corps' Camp Pendleton and Camp Lejeune. But that's just the start. For a Navy corpsman to actually be assigned to a Marine combat unit, they must also pass the Fleet Marine Force qualifications, or FMF. That includes passing the Marine Corps' physical fitness tests, demonstrating proficiency in relevant combat skills like weapon handling, and even learning land navigation. They must also pass a written test on Marine Corps doctrine and procedures and deploy with a Marine Corps unit. Earning that Fleet Marine Force qualification signifies a sailor's commitment to the Navy Marine Corps team and their ability to integrate with Marine forces during any deployment operations. These amazing men and women provide the medical triage expertise necessary on the battlefield for the Marines to be an effective fighting force, no matter where they're sent. And they also take care of Marines on the base. Navy corpsmen of the Fleet Marine Force are so embedded within the Marine culture that Marines affectionately call them Doc, a title of deep respect, and they earn it every single day. So, why does the U.S. Marines use Navy corpsmen instead of their own medics? You might be wondering, why hasn't the Marine Corps ever created its own medical units? Wouldn't that make more sense? Wouldn't that make them more independent? Well, not so fast there. The truth is, this system actually works incredibly well. Let me explain. Remember, Marines are a fast moving force designed to deploy quickly and aggressively anywhere in the world at a moment's notice. Having the Navy provide medical support allows the Marine Corps to stay streamlined and focused on its one mission: warfighting. The role of the corpsman is absolutely vital to keeping the Marines in the fight. Simply put, the Navy corpsman that is deployed alongside Marines is a role that is based on a long Marine Corps heritage. Medical care by corpsmen for the U.S. Marines can be traced to a tradition that goes back to June 17th, 1898, the date that the Navy Hospital Corps was created during the Spanish American War. At that time, the Marine Corps was much smaller than it is today and much closer tied to the Navy. But Marines were sent to fight in such faraway places as Guam and the Philippines, and closer to home to Cuba and Puerto Rico. Marines wounded in combat needed to be brought back to the ships for extensive care. So rather than forming its own medical branch and building their own hospitals, the Marines simply continued to rely on the Navy's medical expertise. And because naval ships often had their own medical officers and petty officers, the non commissioned officers of the U.S. Navy, there were no real need to add that MOS, or military occupational specialty. It wasn't just a matter of convenience either, it was simply a practical choice. Throughout history, this partnership with the naval medical units proved very effective. From the fields and wooded landscapes in France during World War I to the beaches of Iwo Jima and Okinawa in World War II to Korea, Vietnam, and even modern day conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. Wherever and whenever Marines needed medical attention, it was a Navy corpsman who patched them up so they could continue the fight or stop the bleeding that kept them alive until they could be evacuated. Being a corpsman isn't just any job. Being a corpsman assigned to a Marine unit is one of the most dangerous and coveted roles in the military. These men and women don't just treat injuries behind the lines, they run into the line of fire, dodging bullets and explosions to save wounded Marines in the chaos of combat. Did you know, as a result of their undaunted heroism, corpsmen have received 22 medals of honor for their bravery? That's the most Medal of Honors given to any other MOS in the U.S. Navy. And Navy corpsmen have also received a staggering 199 Navy Crosses and 984 Silver Stars. That's how incredibly brave and effective these corpsmen really are. One last side note, of all of the Navy's enlisted ratings, corpsmen have the most personnel. With over 24,000 active duty and Navy Reserve hospital corpsmen assigned to Navy, Marine Corps, and Joint Command assignments, and one-third of all corpsmen are women. Now, what about those red crosses seen on uniforms and helmets in photographs and films? Well, combat is a brutal and often merciless fight. And you can only imagine that a red cross on a helmet would simply just be a bullseye for the enemy sniper. A wounded or killed corpsman on the battlefield could possibly mean the difference between winning or losing a firefight. Photos and films of corpsmen that show red crosses, for the most part, represent Marine corpsmen prior to the Vietnam War. In fact, during World War II and the Korean War, corpsmen commonly wore the red crosses on their helmets, armbands, and sometimes on their uniforms. Around that Korean War period, however, some of the units very wisely began to question its practicality on the battlefield. There is no exact year when U.S. Navy hospital corpsmen officially stopped wearing the red crosses in combat areas, but we know that the practice gradually declined during the Vietnam War era. By the mid to late 1960s, many corpsmen simply stopped wearing the red crosses in combat zones because of the Viet Cong and NVA forces deliberately targeting them. And so the red crosses were largely abandoned. The red cross is rarely used today in combat zones. Instead, modern corpsmen wear the same uniforms as Marines do in order to blend in and reduce the risk of being targeted. But every Marine on that battlefield knows who the corpsman is and knows that they can depend on them at a moment's notice when they call for help. So the next time you think about the U.S. Marine Corps, remember this: next to every Marine is a Navy corpsman saving lives. They may not wear the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor, but they are every bit a part of the Marine Corps' legacy. So, Semper Fi, Doc, for always standing by the few and the proud. Can I get an oorah? If you found this video interesting, you may also like this next video. And as always, thank you for watching and supporting the channel.